Attention! If you or a loved one was diagnosed with
Concussions.
you may be entitled to financial compensation.
A concussion is a condition linked to an impactful force to the head. Force is the mechanical interaction that goes on between two objects or bodies, changes or tries to change the motion of the objects. In this clip, we see our actor, Emily, applying force to the football as she throws it in the air. The magnitude of the force is affected by the mass of the football or the amount of material in it. Another example of a force is gravity, or the attractive force between two objects. It is related to their masses and inversely proportional to the square of the distance between them. We are constantly experiencing the effects of the Earth's gravity, and it is the reason why the football falls to the ground. Weight is the effect of gravity on mass. If this scene were to take place on a planet with stronger gravity, the weight of the football would increase, but its mass would remain constant. Several things are changing when a football player runs along the field. First is linear displacement. This is how far and in what direction an object, or in this case a person, has changed its position. Dividing the change in displacement by the amount of time it took to make that change gives us linear velocity. This is how fast the player is running. The change in velocity divided by time provides linear acceleration, which tells us when the player is speeding up or slowing down. Newton's second law of motion states that force is equal to mass times acceleration. Therefore, if we know the mass and acceleration of the football player, we can calculate the force that they are exerting. Along with displacement, velocity, and acceleration, the football player also has linear momentum, which is a property that can be calculated by multiplying mass and velocity. Linear impulse is the change in momentum of an object. It is calculated by multiplying force and time. Other factors impact the football as it is thrown through the air. Magnus force is a lift force on the object caused by a pressure difference due to rotation. This is based on the Bernoulli principle, which states that the pressure of a fluid decreases where its velocity increases. A spinning object creates an uneven speed of airflow, with one side having higher pressure than the other. The object moves from high pressure to low pressure, diverting it from its original straight path. The boundary layers, or microscopic fluid layers next to the football, also affect its path. A laminar boundary layer, with all molecules moving in the same direction, creates less friction, but is not as stable. A turbulent boundary layer, where the molecules are mixed up, causes increased surface drag. Newton's first law of motion states that an object will remain at rest or continue with constant velocity unless acted on by an unbalanced force. In this case, the ball is the unbalanced force that stops Emily's motion. In this change of setting, we can see other forces being applied. Generation of angular momentum is the rotational momentum occurs when an object is spinning. As the ball falls from the atrium, it spins faster and faster until it hits Emily's head. Conservation of linear momentum is the linear momentum system that has constant magnitude and direction when subject to no external force. The same force that is exerted by a person throwing a football is received by the other. The same momentum is converted. The football hitting Emily is going to hurt just as much as the force Mona, the person throwing the ball, exerts while throwing the football. When one body or object applies a force to another, the second body or object will apply a force equal in size but opposite in direction to the first body. That is Newton's third law of motion. Emily applies a force to the wall, and the wall applies an equal but opposite force on her, which can cause a concussion. The coefficient of restriction is the ratio of the final to initial velocity between two objects after their collision. It is a measure of the elasticity of the collision, or how much kinetic energy remains after the objects collide. For example, in this scenario, running into a brick wall is an inelastic collision. Therefore, we would expect to have a low coefficient of restriction. In this scene, we can see our subject being hit by a football while driving her car. In this case, the third-class lever is Mona's elbow. A third-class lever is when force is in the middle and load and fulcrum are on the opposite ends. Form drag is the resistance created by pressure differential between front and back of an object moving through a fluid. In this case, form drag is applied to the ball when it's in the air. This is also supplemented with surface drag, which is the friction produced between the air and surface of the football. Looking closer at the motion of the football, we can see some more complexity. Projectile motion is any object that is given initial velocity while following a path entirely determined by gravity. In this context, it is the motion of the football going in a curve.
Please don't wait.
Call 1-800-GOT-HURT
For a free legal consultation and financial information packet.
concussion.
Patients call now.
1-800-GOT-HURT. Again, that's 1-800-GOT-HURT today.